Hey there, it's Graham here from the Confident Man Project, and as someone who has experienced a truckload of anxiety in my own life, I was very interested to recently come across a 2019 documentary by the BBC titled Nadiya, Anxiety and Me. And I thought it would be interesting to have a bit of a watch this documentary and just give you my feedback on what I think about Nadiya's experience. So, let's hit play. Mm-hmm. Oh, negative self-talk right off the bat. Sucks, alright. You. Lots of you statements there. We need to talk. What do I need though? We need to talk. Okay, interesting. Ah, that sucks. Hmm. Just taking deep breaths. Let's all take a deep breath. Hmm. 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 Man, that's rough. Yeah. Panic attacks suck. Yup. Okay. Hmm. Okay. This will be interesting. Yeah, cool. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. 5 million. Oh my god. That's a lot. Perfectionism. Great question. No, let's all take a deep breath. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I reckon Nadia probably has some unresolved childhood trauma. Let's see whether that turns out to be the case. Yeah, she's obviously feeling anxious. God, it's making me feel anxious just watching. Alright, she's in touch with her somatic symptoms. You can do this, Nadia. You've got this. Hmm. Yeah, that sucks. Hmm. Well, mainly it'll be tough on you. Okay. Saying your worries are ridiculous. It's not really accepting. So she's making herself wrong for worrying about things. It's kind of understandable. So this is an opportunity for her husband, to acknowledge her feelings. Alright, he's gone with a thought rather than a feeling. I got a hunch the people in Nadia's life are not good at acknowledging her feelings, and maybe she's not great at that either. Hmm. Popular analogy. Monster, dragon. Well, it's trying to get your attention, Nadia. There's something unresolved. Okay, distraction strategies. Work in the short term, but not so good in the long term. Routines do lessen anxiety, but that's why OCD people have rituals. Hmm. Keep your mind busy. Okay. So a lot of distracting from feelings. Yeah, it's because it's not really getting to the bottom of the problem. That's why you've got to keep doing it. I'll be curious to see whether Nadia finds people that can help her address the root cause of this anxiety. Okay, cool. Oh, Google searches. Plenty of things to scare the shit out of you doing that. Let's see what they find. Well, the NHS should know what they're talking about. That's the national health system in Britain. So her husband seems supportive, but is he emotionally available to her? Was this discussion? She's crying, so she's experiencing some trauma symptoms. Let's see how her husband responds. Okay, his wife is upset and he's gone into a rationalization rather than acknowledging how she's feeling. She's obviously feeling sad because she's crying, but he's directed away from that. Possibly to stop her crying, but crying is actually a good thing to release trauma. So her husband speaks for her. She even noticed that. I think I'd give the husband about a 3 out of 10 for that interaction. Like, he's obviously supportive, but he's not actually acknowledging his wife's feelings. Okay, let's see if we can find some answers. Great questions. Hi, David. Wow, he should know what he's talking about. That's a lot of people. Yeah, well, what would cause that? Hmm. It's a bit of a damning indictment. Okay. Oh, okay. Hmm. What about all the other treatments? Got alarm bells ringing in my head. Hmm. I wonder if she's going to come across them though. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Uh, okay, a specialist. Hmm. It doesn't get better if you just avoid it. You got to face whatever it is causing it. Okay, Paul Sarkovsky. Really? His first session, he just wants to assess the extent of her anxiety. What about creating a safe place for her to express how she's really feeling? I mean, I can understand him wanting to work out how bad the problem is, but is that really his first intention? Okay, so she's anxious about that. Whoa, hang on. Are you going to acknowledge her anxiety? He's launched straight into an explanation. So he's just tried to placate her rather than acknowledge her feelings. Whoa, that's sympathy rather than empathy. What about, hey, you're feeling really lonely? So he's arguing with her about her language rather than acknowledging her feelings. And he's taking notes rather than really being available to her. Oh my god. This is not looking good so far. So he's doing a lot of intellectual analysis rather than acknowledging her feelings. Alright, he's connected on the fact that she calls it a monster, so that's built some empathy. Okay, good. He's asking about childhood. Bullying! Right. Bullying trauma. Let's see how this goes. Okay. You can hear she's upset about this in her voice. Oh my god. What? Did you tell your parents? What about how did you feel about that? So he's deflected her away from the feeling that she has about that. Not be fair. So she's trying to protect her parents. Right. Well, he's onto something now. But is he going to deal with it? So they're doing a lot of cognitive rationalizations about her anxiety rather than accessing the feelings that are causing it. And she's just disclosed childhood trauma. Okay, she finds it hard talking about things that happened in the past. Yeah, which is what you need to do. That doesn't work. Well, why that happens not as important as how did you feel about it? Okay, this could be a link. Ah, okay, big family. Potential for parental emotional neglect 'cause it's hard to meet the needs of five kids all at once. Okay, they knew it was there but it wasn't talked about. So that suggests could be a lack of connection possibly with your sisters. Aha. Wow. But how do her sisters respond when she expresses how she feels? Hysterical? That's a judgment? Why is she doing it? Because she's frightened. Ah, okay. More judgmental labels. Dramatic. She's not being dramatic, she's being scared. Looks like she is not getting a lot of empathy from her sisters. Like, it's good that they're talking about this, but it's a very intellectual analysis. There's not a lot of emotional connection going on. Again, judgments, questioning, rationalizing. Why? It's not going to solve it. So this is a great opportunity for her sisters to empathize with her and say, sounds like you're really anxious. All those thoughts are driven by anxiety. Yeah, because it disagrees with her emotional experience, and that's always going to win over a rationalization. You're anxious, Nadia, but nobody around you is acknowledging that. Well, I'm happy that they've started the conversation at least, but I'm noticing there's not a lot of emotional connection happening with her sisters. So maybe the same was true with her parents. Well, you could say, was I born with it, but you've had trauma. You weren't born with a trauma. Doesn't sound like it's genetic in your case. It sounds like you were terrified of your brother dying when you were a kid and nobody was really there for you. So you didn't learn how to regulate your own emotions. That's not your fault. You just weren't taught. Alright, this will be interesting. Genetics are really cool, so it's really cool to like be able to blame things on genetics. Particularly if you're a scientist. It's like, oh, we found a genetic reason. That's really cool. But is it really true? Well, that's cool. She's asked them how they feel. So she's empathic. She's just not getting it from other people. I reckon Nadia's probably a highly sensitive person that's just been deprived of empathy. I relate to that. Yeah, I'd be going for environment. The thing is that people who had emotionally unavailable parents tend to turn into emotionally unavailable parents themselves, and that transmits anxiety to their children. It's not necessarily genetic. Well, that's where the trauma is. It's in the lack of nurture part. Okay, great intention. Love it. I see. He's focused on a diagnosis. What if he were to focus on her feelings and making her feel safe rather than on a diagnosis? Hmm. Maybe focus on like what's causing that. Yeah, well, it sounds like she does. So how's she feeling right now, Paul? Looks like she's feeling relieved. How are you going to acknowledge that? No, you're not. Okay, she's doing some breathing. This is a good thing. Let's see what comes up. Right, she's having some somatic symptoms as a result of doing breath work, essentially. Oh, she's really getting some somatic symptoms. That's fine. Is he going to acknowledge that? What? Yes, it is. What the fuck? Yeah, this is helping, alright. It's putting her in touch with her somatic symptoms. He's gone off into a rationalization rather than deal with those feelings she was having. What about the feelings she was just having? No, you don't. What? She's just told you how she's feeling and you said, no, you don't. What the fuck? Who is this guy? So he's using a bunch of cognitive rationalizations rather than addressing her feelings. She's looking intrigued and confused. Well, this is a CBT approach that if you change your thoughts, you can stop the panic, but it doesn't work if you've got trauma that's not been healed. So let's see how this pans out. I don't like his approach, frankly. It's very unempathic. Well, it's making it worse because it's putting you in touch with the trauma. That's why it's making it seem worse. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You got to learn how to regulate those attacks, not avoid them. Okay, this is good. Bit of systematic desensitization, perhaps. Right, this could work. Now we might be onto something. Okay, here's the thing. Are you going to acknowledge her feelings while she's doing that? It's all very well taking her to the panic, but what about teaching her to regulate it with your nervous system? Okay, so it's basically doing breath work with her. This is good. Right. The feeling is okay. She's hit the trauma. She's right. The trauma's coming up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What about some empathy? She's just feeling the trauma. What's going? It doesn't matter what's going through her mind. It's like, how are you feeling, Paul? For fuck's sake. Okay. Right. Childhood trauma. Yeah. This is why she's anxious. Right. Absolutely. Right. You thought you would die. You couldn't breathe, and you haven't healed it. But he's still just rationalizing it. It's like, that must have been really scary for you, Nadia. Oh my god. God's terrible! He's terrible! What the fuck? Empathize with her. So he's rationalized. She's disconnected from the feeling and it's gone back down again rather than being fully processed. You feel fine now because you've just disconnected back from that feeling. Alright, well, at least she got in touch with some trauma. She does have it. We know how to bring it up. She can bring it, connect with it via breath work. The therapist really didn't handle that well, though, I have to say. Certainly not from an empathic point of view. In fact, it makes me angry. I'm angry at how he handled that because he was not emotionally available for her when she was disclosing her trauma. And that pisses me off. Right, the trauma is causing the panic attacks. It's very obvious. No, not if you heal the trauma, it won't. Well, see, she's upset just talking about it. So she still has some traumatic feelings attached to that memory, and that's what's causing her panic. And it was an interpersonal thing, like people did this to her, so it's generating social anxiety for her. Yeah, bullying trauma, right. Well, that's kind of around backwards, Paul, because the way you deal with the anxiety is by dealing with the trauma, not the other way around. Yeah, that's true, for sure. Question is how you do that. Yeah, I've been through bullying trauma. It's a horrendous thing. So this is great that schools are starting to tackle this. I think the challenge is how you deal with the feelings of shame that students experience when they go seek help, because that's another thing you can end up getting bullied about. But this is sounding really good. It's good that it's available. Well, that's great if you don't get bullied when you go back. Yeah, that sucks. The longer you wait before dealing with a traumatic incident, it's just the longer you're suffering. Ah, perfectionism. That'll make you anxious. Yeah, social media is a real problem. It gives you the illusion of connection to other human beings, but you don't actually get the empathy that you need. I don't know, bullying was worse in the 1980s. That's when I got bullied. Hmm. Well, you didn't have to deal with that particular social pressure, but there were others. Well, that's supportive. Like, I like that. It's good to do a bit of cognitive reframing. Oh, well, that's not so good. Hmm. If I were in his position, I'd be offering some classes on emotional regulation, like Daniel Goleman type stuff, emotional intelligence. Right, because if you can head off the childhood trauma before it even happens, then you don't have to deal with it. Yep. Yeah, but CBT is only one of like a stack of therapies, and it's not particularly good at dealing with trauma, so that'd be worth investigating some of those. Well, the trouble with the medication, because it suppresses your emotions, it makes it harder to connect with the feelings behind the trauma. Ah, I'd be willing to bet she's got some childhood trauma too. Let's see whether she talks about that. Let's all take a deep breath. This is heavy going, man. Right, so it hasn't actually made the problem go away, it's just lessened its intensity. Okay. Well, it has relieved her symptoms somewhat, but hasn't actually addressed the root cause of the problem. Right. Let's see how empathic this guy is. So he started with a description of how SSRIs work. What about asking Nadia what's going on for her? So he interrupted her rather than listening to her. So she's expressing frustration right now. Let's see if he acknowledges that. No, he's gone off into a cognitive rationalization. Okay, she's persisting. She really wants him to acknowledge her frustration because she's gone straight back to it. She's using a lot of you statements rather than I statements. Again, he hasn't acknowledged her frustration. Instead, he's talking about his experience. She was clearly frustrated in that interaction, and he talked about his frustration rather than acknowledging hers. Oh my god, I'm giving him a 1 out of 10. Because what he said about SSRIs was correct. Alright, she's had 3 sessions. Yep. What? He's identified the root cause of her anxiety and he wants to put it to one side. What the fuck is this guy thinking? I can't believe what I'm hearing. Did he seriously just say, oh my god, they know what the cause of the problem is and they want to put it to one side? What the hell? No wonder she's anxious. She's not getting the empathic support that she needs to heal her childhood trauma. I can't believe what I've just heard. I'm just completely astonished. It's like, I went to the doctor and they found I'd broken my leg. Once they x-rayed it and found where the break was, they wanted to put that to one side and work on my hip instead. Like, what the fuck? This is turning into a comedy. Oh my god. Right, she's using structure to manage her anxiety rather than having an empathic therapist who will help her heal her childhood trauma. And she hasn't talked much about her parents and her experience of them, but my guess is they probably weren't emotionally available. Unfortunately, she's picked a therapist who's not emotionally available either. Why not actually deal with the trauma? You already know she can access it via breath work. All you got to do is get her to sit there and breathe while you remain connected with her, and she processes it. Like, it's not fucking rocket science. Okay, let's see if you'll acknowledge her feelings in this session. This is useful if it's paired with some empathic support for managing her feelings while she's doing this. But again, all this is just cognitive rationalizations rather than actually dealing with her feelings. You already know what she needs to do. She needs to process the unhealed childhood trauma. Look, this is effective, but it's just mean when you know she's got trauma that you haven't healed yet. Like, no, she just told you the thought of going on the train makes me feel sick, and you didn't acknowledge it. Like, this guy is just emotionally disconnected. She's just told you the thought of it makes her feel sick, and you didn't even acknowledge it. Yeah, why do you think she's asked 3 times, Paul? Because she's feeling anxious about it, and you've just got up and abandoned her. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Is this guy seriously a world-leading CBT therapist? I cannot believe what I am seeing. I'm giving him a negative 1 out of 10. She's so anxious she's now talking to the cameraman because the therapist has just abandoned her while she's anxious. Like, this is just mean. Like, yeah, exposure therapy works. Okay, he's being reassuring. That's good. I like this. But is he going to acknowledge how she's feeling? No, he's just going to hit her with some more rationalizations. Voice in my head tell me that I'm not good enough. I'm going to have a panic attack. She's using a lot of you statements rather than I statements. Oh man, she could definitely use some assertiveness training. Because when you learn how to express yourself using I statements and be more assertive, your anxiety goes down because you start getting your needs met. I have to say, this therapist is really pissing me off right now. He's reminding me of my mother, basically. That's why. It's tapping into my childhood trauma. All that is true, but what's missing is empathy to help her heal the anxiety that's driving those behaviors. Oh man, I'm feeling it myself. Is he going to give her any empathy for her panic? That's the question. Right, he's normalizing, but he's not asking questions like, where do you feel the tension? What's it trying to say? What color is it? What shape is it? Right, she's still looking to him for reassurance, and he's not empathizing with her. He's just giving her rationalizations. She keeps going back. She keeps going like, please give it to me. Please give it to me. She probably doesn't know that's consciously why she's doing it. But that's... God, I'm feeling anxious just watching this. Maybe I need to get myself some CBT. Okay, so he's reassuring, at least. And he's physically present. That's a good thing. She's looking scared though. Right. The exposure therapy is working. Yes, it will go away if you face it. So she appears to be excited, but he doesn't acknowledge that. Alright, so she phones her husband to celebrate. The celebration feels a little bit muted. So she's looking for other options because the one she's trying at the moment isn't fully meeting her needs. Good old Barry. Oh, let's take a deep breath. You're actually okay. Peer support communities can be very powerful. Wow, 250,000. Crikey. Plus, there's something about talking to someone who's experienced it themselves. Yeah, and that's part of the battle. Oh, average Nadia. Nadia's awesome. Come on. Where's your self talk? Well, that's because Paul hasn't addressed the root cause. He's come so close. Yeah, that's heartbreaking because the therapist hadn't laid the foundation for the exposure work. He hadn't healed the core trauma. I notice her husband tends to do most of the talking in these conversations. I reckon he could benefit from some reflective listening training. Like, he's supportive, he's on the right track, he just doesn't know how to empathize with his wife. Right. Well, that's a rationalization and a judgment, Nadia. You're having a feeling. She's angry with him. I reckon she's got some repressed anger as well, feeding her anxiety. She's clearly angry with her husband because she tells him that he's so bad at everything. And unexpressed anger can come out as anxiety, so that would make sense to me. Yeah, I reckon she's got some anger about the way she's been treated. If I was Nadia's therapist, I'd be getting her husband in for a private session to teach him how to give his wife empathy. At the moment, he's talking about his strategy for navigating life, but without acknowledging how anxious it makes her feel. See, her husband is potentially very supportive. He's a great resource that her therapist could use to improve their relationship. Yeah, of course, you're starting to wonder whether therapy's really the answer because the therapies you've been given so far is pretty shit. Yeah, but understanding them isn't the solution. No, it's not working. Well, trust your gut feel, Nadia. You're right. He is wrong. Let's see if he's going to empathize with her. So she's feeling frustrated. And he just says no. What about acknowledging her feelings? Now he's getting defensive. He can't regulate his own feelings, let alone his clients'. She's frustrated. He's got defensive rather than acknowledging her frustration. And now it's pissing me off. God, all three of us are pissed off. See, his frustration is rising. Yeah, but you've been avoiding the trauma, Paul. For goodness sake. Right. Let's deal with that. No, it's not. You just have to stop avoiding it. How's your client going to face their trauma if you're avoiding it? But you know how to do it, Paul. You know that breath work connects her with the trauma. Now you're lecturing her about CBT. This guy is just infuriating. Now she's starting to suppress. He's basically trying to argue with her that she's wrong when she's actually right. Well, you could try finding a therapist that's more empathic. It helps you actually heal the trauma. because he's touched on it, but not really healed it. Look, gutsy move. I totally applaud you for your bravery, Nadia. But wow, that's pretty harsh. Oh, wow, that's heavy, man. Okay. I acknowledge your bravery, Nadia. That's a gutsy thing to do. You're a very courageous woman. I just wish you were being given more support. Because the problem is not you, the problem is the people around you. Yeah, it's making me anxious too, Nadia. Alright, she's obviously putting on a brave face to deal with this one. Deep breaths, everyone. Well, that's a gutsy move. It suggests that she's very anxious about other people's approval and not wanting to see them, which totally connects with her childhood bullying and the toilet experience. Well, you just haven't found the right people, Nadia. Well, it will take a long way if you keep going back to Paul. Yes, there is hope. Right, well, that's a heavy duty, that's a pretty heavy duty documentary right there. So, look, firstly, Nadia, I want to personally thank you for making it because it's really great that you have at least raised the profile of this issue and brought it to the public's attention and put yourself out there as a person that's really going through it, like a lived experience example. So, that's absolutely fantastic. The main thing that I would add to that is I'm really sorry for the way you were treated by the people that you saw because the therapist you saw had a complete lack of empathy for your situation. Like, he talked mainly about cognitive rationalizations, which unfortunately, as a CBT therapist, that's what he's trained to do. Now, he actually did enable Nadia to connect with her anxiety because of the connection with the childhood trauma, and he worked that out. And mind bogglingly, like it still blows my mind that he chose to put that to one side. If that's the best the world of psychology has to offer, it's no wonder rates of mental illness are continuing to skyrocket. Look, Nadia, I don't know what's going on for you now. I know it was a couple of years ago since you made that. I hope you have found people that are more able to help you deal with that childhood trauma. If you haven't, if you're still feeling anxious, feel free to reach out to me. Like, hit me up on the contact address below, and I can help you with this because we know what the problem is, right? The problem is you had your head flushed down a toilet when you were a kid, you couldn't breathe, and you're still carrying some of the trauma from that experience. Also, you had a brother who you were worried was going to die, and no one in your family was giving you empathy for the fact that you're very anxious at that time. So there's obvious childhood trauma in your history. We already know how to access it. You can do that just by doing some breathing exercises. It's very simple. I'm sorry that you ended up seeing the people that you ended up seeing. I get that this documentary was probably intended to portray CBT in a really positive light as being super helpful, but your intuition was accurate. At the end of the day, it wasn't really able to help you because it just didn't go deep enough. I'm glad, Nadia, you were able to have the experiences with the systematic desensitization that you did, lessening your anxiety in public and in front of audiences. That's fantastic. That side of CBT definitely works. But the childhood trauma, if it's still unaddressed, is likely to continue giving you anxiety. And also, it's great that your husband is super supportive, but he could use a bit of training in how to give you empathy and not interrupt you and not talk over you when you're expressing a feeling. And I'd recommend you get all the people around you to start doing that. So if you're interested in knowing more about how to overcome anxiety using somatic body-based therapies such as somatic experiencing or breath work or other modalities that I use with my clients, get in touch with me via the website below, and look forward to hearing from you.